Local commercial banks are being labeled discriminatory with their decision not to accept web houses' money under a regulated environment. Canadian-based banks have all refused to take the money, labeling the funds as an increased risk for money laundering. And as Clint Watson tells us tonight, attorneys for all of the web shops, as well as the country's largest web boss, is not taking kindly to these responses and are calling for compliance with the law.
The question is, are commercial banks within their rights to refuse the funds of regulated web shops, or is this policy against the law and unfair as deemed by those in the gaming sector?
I think a lot of their latest claims and statements are reckless, irresponsible, and a total disregard for the law.
The only policy seems to be a racist policy, which is troubling.
I think it would raise very interesting legal questions.
I personally believe it has nothing to do with the what, but it has everything to do with the who.
Island CEO Sabaz Bastian and gaming attorney Wayne Munro believes a decision by banks not to take their money is not evidenced enough with facts, but rather what they perceive to be ulterior motives. They're joined in their views by Alfred Sayers, whose clients also operates web shops. He called it a misguided decision and subversion of the rule of law in the Bahamas.
Licensed gaming houses are treated as financial institutions with the same obligations as banks with respect to KYC as well as sources of funds. And for one set of financial institutions to say that they will not do business with other financial institutions that are licensed and supervised by a national regulatory agency is a subversion of the law.
The gaming bill passed last November. It made room for both casinos and web shop operators to conduct business. Munro finds it contradictory as he revealed that banks are already taking his clients' money.
It is receiving monies from them into the government's account monthly because the gaming taxes are paid monthly. And so if they have a policy that they're not going to accept any of the money, then they need to close all of those companies' accounts, which they have not done.
Commercial banking executives have said their corresponding international banks have expressed issues with web proceeds being banked and could cease business should they opt to take the funds. But Munro says it should not be a problem, as Bank of the Bahamas has said their international partners, which are believed to be the same as those for the other commercial banks, have no issues. And here's why Munro feels that way. Scotiabank is reportedly Atlantis' banker, and CIBC First Caribbean reportedly is the bank for Bahamar, both of whom operate online gaming. And in the attorney's eyes, it's far from more of a risk to banks than local gaming houses.
Web shops are limited to B-dollar transactions, which isn't a convertible currency, are limited to residents here, whereas Atlantis, Bahamar, are able to game online with the world.
And to say that you will not take it from Bahamian-owned and operated gaming house operators, it would also be discriminatory.
Munro suggests that should banks not change their policy after the regulation takes place, that the government ought to reconsider regulating these banks, particularly if, in his view, they continue with racist policies. Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
Executive Director of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, Edison Sumner, shares a different view. He says they respect the bank's decision in this instance.
They have to look at not only what is happening now, they're looking at the history of these operations as well. And the fact is that until these entities are properly licensed, the revenues that they would have been earned outside of the formal economy. The banks are looking at this. The banks have their policies. We respect the bank's policies as it relates to who they're prepared to accept deposits from. And we understand the risk of money laundering that they have expressed concerns about. We understand the other risks that are related to doing banking generally. So while we understand the gaming sector's concerns about certain banks accepting or not accepting their deposits, we also understand that the banks have rules to follow, and the rules that they're following aren't necessarily rules that are only unique to that bank, but these are international banking rules.